Herbert West, Reanimator, Miskatonic. Written by Paul Grammatico. Teaser. Fade in. Interior of studio flat day. A small, modest studio flat inside a large boarding house with a bed. The bed is immaculate. The sheets cleaned and straightened. A dresser completely free of dust. Super, 1909. Glass cases along one wall contain a collection of butterfly specimens pinned to a backing board. Below the glass cases sits a small desk with a killing jar. Near the far wall is a small but organized lab table with a stool. Various test tubes, beakers, and flasks cover the table. A strange dark fluid drips into a flask from a circular glass coil. Herbert West, 20. Caucasian, short but wiry, with blonde hair and a face that seems to be chiseled out of granite which matches his stone-cold demeanor, enters the flat. He wears old-fashioned spectacles and carries a small bag. He goes to the small desk and puts down the bag. West opens the bag and pulls out an eye loop. He sets the loop down on the desk. West goes to the small lab and takes a small handmade syringe, opens the flask, places the syringe into it, and draws in the dark fluid. West returns to the desk, removes his spectacles, and places the loop on his right eye. He then opens one of the glass cases and delicately injects a small amount of the fluid into one of the butterflies. He removes the loop and puts the syringe down on the desk, then steps back to observe the butterfly with anticipation. After a moment, a small edge of frustration crosses West's face. With a huff of impatience, West places the loop back over his eye again and injects the other butterflies in the case, one by one. He steps back and stares at the insects for a moment before shaking his head, takes the loop out of his eye, puts his spectacles back on, closes the case, and returns the syringe to the lab table. West places the loop back in the bag and heads for the door. Flit! West stops in his tracks. Flit! West turns his head and looks over his shoulder. The insects remain motionless and still pinned to the backboard. West heads back to the collection case and studies the contents carefully. Nothing moves. He cranes his neck and looks from one to another, his breath fogging the glass. He frantically wipes it with his sleeve, moving his gaze from one to another before he snaps his head across to one particular butterfly. Movement. A twitch of an antenna. A small grin creeps across the corner of his mouth. Flit. All of the butterflies jerk to life. West jerks back in surprise as they flutter madly in the case. He looks at it with a blank, cold stare. Wings flap against the backboard as the butterflies struggle against their mounting pins. They rip their bodies apart as they pull themselves free. They attack their own torn abdomens, then turn to attack each other, ripping wings and bodies apart inside the glass case. End of teaser.